Welcome back to the John the Bossman Show with John Beckler. We're joined by our basketball analyst, the coach, Travis Williams. Coach, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing good this Saturday morning. Very, very excited. Like I say, anytime playoff basketball is on, I'm glued and locked into the TV, to the radio, to XM, anything dealing with sports, especially with the playoffs. I'm really locked in at this particular moment. But everything's going good.
Yes, indeed, Coach. Coach, got to start off with you right in our backyards here. The Memphis Grizzlies 1-1 in this series. Mike Conley came back game 2. It made a big difference because Steph Curry had to defend him on the other end, and Mike Conley can defend Steph Curry. Tony Allen made Klay Thompson take rush shots. Zebo and Zach Randolph dominating in the post, and the Grizzlies got back on track. Let's go to game 3 today down at the FedEx Forum, the Grindhouse. What do you think the keys of the game would be? And can Mike Conley and Tony Allen continue to slow down the Splash Brothers and the Bruce Brothers of Mark and Zach, do everything on the inside and get this Grizzlies a game 3 win, a pivotal game 3 win at the Grindhouse?
Well, like you mentioned, it comes down to defense. You think about it. The Golden State Warriors, one of the highest scoring teams in the league, and to be able to have that caliber and get a win on the road, at Golden State, that says a lot about the character of the Grizzlies. But I think what turned it around was the play of Mike Conley, the comeback of think about it, the turnaround for him having a facial surgery and coming back and playing and just giving those guys a spark and all the different dynamics that he brings. First and foremost, the leadership, from a point guard position. That says it all. And then being able to defend, Stephon Curry and, like you said, Allen with Klay Thompson, and then you just talk with all the mix of guys that just feeding off that momentum there. But I'm telling you, it's going to come down to a defensive affair and guys making plays. That's the most important thing that I can see is guys making plays, come down to a defensive affair and just executing plays. I think Memphis, the Grizzlies really, really feel good about the game tonight.
Coach, one of the things that JR and I spoke about, in preparation for interviewing you this morning was, a coach's perspective and making sure that we speak to you and get the coach's perspective on some of the matchups that we're going to see, not only in this series, but in others. When you're in a series like this, how important is it to really recognize those matchups and when guys are kind of giving up certain areas of the floor, and there's so many nuances I would feel from a coach's perspective that you can take advantage of. Have you seen any of that, or can you lead credence to any of those types of things?
I just think, with the type of matchups, especially when you're talking about the MVP candidate, Kurt, you have to at least, a lot of times he's going to get his shots. He's very crafty, very creative, but you have to make him take tough shots. And I think that's important coming from a defense perspective, being able to limit him getting easy baskets in transition, open looks. Klay Thompson, making sure every shot that he's taking is tough, contested shots. And then I think, being able to limit, your points in the paint, your offensive rebounds, being able to limit teams getting to the free throw line, a lot of transition baskets and stuff like that. But I think, from a coach's perspective, it's always valuing the basketball. Limiting your turnovers and valuing the basketball is very, very important in this game, especially the playoff series. Either you're going to see a blowout game or it's going to come down to where it's a possession game where, hey, you have to execute the offense. You have to take a good shot. You have to establish an inside-outside game. Things like that are really, really important in the game, especially a playoff series.
And speaking of that same vein, Coach, the Clippers and the Rockets. When the Rockets were going inside to Dwight Howard, they were dominating the game. When they got the Houston naturally jump shot happy, but they forgot about Dwight Howard. It allowed Blake Griffin to get off. Those missed long rebounds get Austin Rivers off, Jamal Crawford off, Matt Barnes making threes. So for the Houston Rockets in this series against the Clippers, with Chris Paul with a strained hamstring, they can go anytime. If they want to win, they should go to Dwight Howard, get DeAndre Jordan, get in foul trouble, get Blake Griffin in foul. Then you got to go to Spencer Hawes and Baby Davis, who are not world beaters on the post. So you feel like the Houston Rockets need to get back to that, you said, that inside game, and then get James Harden involved, then a Corey Brewer, and please, Josh Smith, quit shooting threes. If you was his coach, would you let him shoot threes the way he wants to shoot threes?
I think that has been a knock. I've followed Josh a long time when I coached in Atlanta and followed him from when he was a teenager and all that stuff. And that's been his knock, where he feels as athletic as telling you, body and, to settle for threes like that. And I don't know if he's trying to prove something to someone, to the league or whatever team that passed on him or got rid of him. But that's not the strength of the Houston Rockets. The strength of the Houston Rockets, you have to establish inside-outside game. When you got a guy like Dwight Howard, you got to give him his touches. And what happens with that, if he's scoring like he did in the first quarter of the last game, he's getting touches. They're going to start double team. So that's going to open up for a whole lot of avenues for even James Harden. And see what's happened with Harden, they're limiting his ability to get to the free throw line. When he gets to the free throw line, he's really dangerous. When he's putting up a number of free throws, and I think in the last game he only had 5 attempts. So Clippers did a really, really great job of being able to contain him and limiting him getting to the free throw line. So, and like I say, you have to establish an inside and outside game with the Houston Rockets. And you have to put your hats off. Doc was able to get Chris Paul back in the rhythm of the game. But like you mentioned, Austin Rivers, J.J. Redick, those guys stepped up big time. And, I had a chance to listen to the interviews after the game with Austin and his daddy to say, just be aggressive. And as you follow that young man's career from when he was a dude and he's in New Orleans, he's just an aggressive player. And so to have that confidence, his big key to, hey, I'm playing with confidence. And the guys are believing it. You think about all the weapons that the Clippers have. I mean, they have a balanced offensive team. And J.J. Redick had one of his better performances, 31 points, shooting well. And that's the effort that it takes for the Clippers to get through this series. And I think it started when San Antonio. When you got to think about that big game they had in San Antonio translate. But this series should be, reality should be 3-0. You think about 3-0. That's my team,
Well, Coach, I'd like to shift it over to the Atlanta Hawks series with the Wizards. And JR and I have talked over the course of the past week to a number of different people about this series. And I'd like to get your opinion on it. Specifically, we had talked about DeMarre Carroll and the impact he's had with the past 6 games, and he's been in 20-plus point scorer and just having a impact all over the floor, not only on the stat sheet. What has that meant to his team? What do you feel he's going to be, doing on the court, contributing to these games through the course of this series, and if they are able to advance on to the Eastern Conference Finals there as well?
He is playing with so much confidence. I think it's so obvious about the confidence he plays, but that's the makeup of their team. They play a brand of basketball where anyone, any given night, can get off and really play. But I think he's the key to that team. We talk about Teague at the point guard, of course. That position, Teague gets him in that session, he runs the offense and gets the game flowing. But Carroll affects the team on both, on offense and defense end, because he's tough, he's hard-nosed, he's aggressive, he gets on the boards, he makes shots. I mean, he just all-around glue guy. And like I said, I think he's playing on that last year of his contract, too, so that's a big thing, too. So when guys get in that position, I just think the system for the Atlanta Hawks fit all those guys. The chemistry, they don't care who gets the shine, they don't care who gets the goal. It's a team effort, and I think it's really, really good in the dynamics that he brings to the team. Because he's a matchup nightmare for a lot of teams because of his versatility, being able to play, score in transition, get to the basket, get some offensive rebounds, and play tough, hard, defense. Just a real solid guy, and he's a right mix for that Atlanta Hawks team.
And we're joined by the coach, Travis Woods, right on the Bossman Show, talking about the NBA playoffs with him, as we always do on the Bossman Show. Well, Coach, speaking of that same veins, we're talking about with Josh Smith. Carroll and Teach, while he is a 3-point shooter, I feel like he shoots too many threes and allergic to the paint. From watching from afar, I feel like the guy does not go inside enough. He went inside and maybe drove a double team. It would lead to open threes for a baseman who needs a corner 3 open for him. He can't really make it off the wing. Like he's more of a corner 3 kind of a guy, or Dennis Schroeder. But I feel like when Perro's out there, there's no offensive rebound out there because he's out at the 3-point line himself. And another kind of guy, I think, that shoots too many threes. Why he can shoot the 3, but he shoots too many of themselves for 3 too much. What do you feel about that with Perro and Teach?
Well, like I said, it's different with the Hawks because that's how Coach Bud likes them to play. I mean, he likes the space. I mean, he likes to bring a different dynamics where bigs have to get out there and, being able to pick and pop. I think I agree with you on some aspects. A big got to get in there and rebound, but I think that's more of their makeup of their team. For some reason they won as many games they did playing that way. But I just think it's a part of what Coach Bud preaches and his coaching philosophy. The way he had some big antics, being able to pick and pop. Even with Horford can shoot that little, college 3-point, shot. I mean, so it just depends on the makeup of the team, et cetera. But I think, big guys, you got to be able to get some action inside, and you got to be able to expand if you make shots, especially you can be capable of hitting some pick and pop shots.
Coach, I'm going to shift it over to the Cleveland series with Chicago. Yeah, obviously, a great finish last night with that bank three-pointer by Rose. And specifically, I want to ask your perspective as a coach. LeBron James didn't play great in that game, had a rough outing. You were still in the game down the stretch. As a coach, is that something that you can take away from a tough loss and say, hey, listen, if that ball hadn't gone in, we probably would have been in an OT period. I think my superstar is going to dominate that OT period. We come out with a win. We played well, even though LeBron had an off night. Is that something that you can take away and hang your hat on, or are you concerned at this point?
Well, I think there's a lot of things you could, you have some concern. I think you're really not too concerned for LeBron, but like you said, he has to shoot better. You can't shoot 8 for 25 and have 7 turnovers. I think that's not his play. I had a chance to, because I'm always just trying to get some insight. And, he brought a good perspective to it. LeBron was like, well, maybe if I was going 11 for 25, then the game wouldn't have come down to that. Limit, maybe had 2 or 3 turnovers instead of 7 turnovers. So, as a coach, you can always 2020 look back and see certain situations. But like as I always talk about, the NBA playoffs is a game of possessions, and that's why it's very, very important. You value each possession. And when you're looking at what the Bulls were able to do against the Cavs, I mean, the Bulls, out-rebounded the Cavs 54-39. So you can look at those stats and see, they outscored them in the paint 40-28. You can look at that. And they had 18-second chance points, with offensive rebounds to Cavs 7. So you can break it down and look at it from all those different perspectives. Because when I look at stats, I look at basically all these stats and say, hey, we got to get better in these areas. And those are the key areas that we need to address. But I don't think it's concerned. It was a very winnable game for the Cavs. And Derrick Rose is Derrick Rose. He's finally, the Derrick Rose is over. He's not that really just raw and aggressive, being hardcore. He's taking shots. He's making plays. And he's playing with a high level of confidence. So I think the Cavs are in for a war with the Bulls. They just have to be ready to play.
And, Coach, another dynamic of this series is Tom Thibodeau is pretty much, reports say the manager wants him fired. Gar Forman and John Pax wants him out, wants a new voice. Feel like, hey, they can do better than Tom Thibodeau. Feel like they gave him enough to win, but he hasn't won. As a coach, when you hear rumblings or noise about your job or in the media, does it affect you and your job and when you're doing your job? And how does it trickle down to the players, the equipment staff, the assistant coaches? So how is that dynamic go when you're feeling the noise and maybe the administration or the manager wants you out?
Well, this is the way you have to rally your guys together. I mean, when it's all said and done, you as a coach, you try to block out all distractions. The harder it is, you try to block out all the distractions as a coach. And only those guys in that locker room really know what goes on. And so that's what you want to try to do is focus on, hey, finishing strong, making sure everybody's on the same page. And trust me, as a coach, the world of sports and what we decide to do as coaches is it's great. I mean, as successful as this has been, barring the injuries from your key players, it just goes to show you, it's a win at all cost mentality coming from the administration, from the ownership. But I think, what he has to do and what he has done, and I applaud him, I think, those guys really support him. Hey, just got to keep fighting. You got to stay on the same page. And they're fighting for him. As you can see in this series, those guys go to work. And he had that defensive mentality and it trickled down to these guys from a physicality perspective, from a mental perspective. Those guys really believe in Coach Steele, you know. So I just think he just, you know, at this particular moment just has to keep him focused.
Now, Coach, I'm going to take it off the hard court and onto the football field.
Okay.
I'm going to bring a question to you about Tom Brady and this whole scenario with Deflategate. Now, you know, me personally, I don't think this whole thing has much impact on the games that he played and the outcome of those games, but I do think it has an impact on the integrity of the man and the organization and those types of things. As a coach, and just as a man, how do you feel about this? The integrity and the you know, honesty with which these guys in that organization have been handling themselves throughout the course of the past 10, 15 years.
I think integrity is the number one. You have to have integrity in any organization. You know, as successful as the Patriots have been, you know, it's, you know, and the success that they've had, you know, is very, very important. And then when this came out, you know, during the Super Bowl, in the championship, all that stuff, it's really tough. You know, it's really tough. And so my opinion on it, you know, you play within the rules. I think everybody played within the rules. And, you know, when you look at the Patriots, how, you know, just the history, you know, Spygate and all this other stuff, it leads you to believe it and think about the impact, you know, and then with the Ted Wills report coming out and say, hey, those guys knew, you know, at least, you know, from information from hearing and watching and collecting the information, like you said, I just think the integrity of the game is, you can't take the integrity out of the game. And I'm big on integrity, and I think it really diminishes, you know, what those guys have done on the field. But that's a tough one because, you know, as an organization, you want to do the right thing. And for a league, you want to do the right thing. It'll be interesting to see the repercussions of it. You know, if Brady comes out and say, hey, do you have some knowledge of it, or whatever the case may be, that's going to be the interesting key. You know, I try not to get too much involved in it from a coach, but I know from my coach's perspective, integrity was the number one thing. You play by the rules, you know. You do things the right way because that's a reflection of you and your organization, what message you're trying to send, especially with those guys at the highest level, you know, Super Bowl champions, you know, MVPs. You know, what message do you send in the sports world, especially to the kids that you're supposed to be a role model to? So that's a really, really touchy subject, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yes, indeed, folks. Not many shows you get this from an actual coach now that can break it down for you. I keep telling you this. You getting a special thing here. A actual coach, a real coach who has also played, can give you perspective on anything, everything coaching-wise, and in the sports, in the NBA, NFL, and the MLB. Coach, as always, great job. We got to do it again next week. We'll see what these series are heading to. We're getting the conference finals. We're getting tighter, Coach. We get close to that championship push we got coming up here.
Hey, I'm really excited. Let's keep this thing moving forward. And I think, you know, sports world and listeners, hey, we have the best show going on in the planet. Like I said, please stay tuned into what we're doing.
Yes, indeed. That was the coach, Travis Williams. We'll be back with the Boss Report after the break. Much enjoy the Bossman Show with John Beckler. It's time for our NBA playoff segment with the coach, Travis Williams. Coach, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good. Just excited, man. It's unbelievable what's going on in NBA playoff basketball. As you can see, the landscape of the game going on, man. It's unbelievable week.
Oh, yes. We're going to start off in Memphis today with you, Coach. The Grizz. We last spoke, we saw the Grizz have some momentum. They beat them out in Golden State, won Game 3 in Memphis. Then Game 4, Golden State made shots. Against Game 5, Tony Allen did not play. Jeff Green did not show up, who has been our X-Factor. has not shown up at all this whole entire series. Then you have the guys not making shots. They pretty much got blown out. Heading back to Memphis, Game 6 on Beale Street. Do you foresee any adjustments Dave Yeager can make to make the game better for the Grizzlies with the Grizzlies having to have Tony Allen wide open with Bogut playing off of him that much, Barnes now on Randolph, Gasol dealing with Draymond Green? Is there something Dave Yeager can do to help mitigate the fact that Bogut's not playing Allen? Would he be bringing him off the bench? And just overall, what can he do to make the Grizzlies play well and finally score over 100 points as he said he need to do to win this series?
And you made some really good points. I mean, to be honest, and that's what it. I mean, when I looked at, just look at the last game, 31-6 fast break points that the Grizzlies gave up to the Warriors, unbelievable. You cannot, a team that's that explosive, give up that many points in transition, easy baskets, and then allow them to shoot 14 or 30 from the threes. And the victories that the Grizzlies did have, they limited those shots. And that, especially at home, you have to be in those guys. And I think, Allen being, not playing that game, especially injured, defensive-minded guy, it really took a lot from that team. Like I said, he's that grind guy, that grind factor guy that get after this. And so that was the biggest difference, defense. They didn't step up and guard those guys. Curry and Thompson, those guys shot unbelievable. Then you have, the subs come in and play particularly well. And like I said, these guys got a lot of momentum, and so what needs to happen now, the Grizzlies, it's a must-win game. It's a must-win defensive game. And you alluded to some of the facts on offense. You got to be able to score. The percentage, 30-some% shooting from the field, you have to be able to score the basketball. And what happens, what I saw, Zach Randolph was killing this first quarter. They established that inside and outside game, and for some reason stopped going to them. So we got to use that size factor that the Grizz have against these, So it's very, very important to see the dynamics of how things play out.
Now, Coach, I'm going to switch it over to the Hawks-Wizards series. And JR and I spoke earlier today, and he had mentioned overhearing some local radio talk in Atlanta talking about why Teague wasn't in the game in the fourth and Schroeder was playing and so on and so forth. JR made the astute observation that Schroeder was kind of the catalyst for them to be able to hold that down and get that victory in that ball game. And I'd be interested to know what your point of view is on that and holding back a key player like Teague in favor of a supporting cast guy like Schroeder, who was able to then, go in, hold it down for you, and makes Coach Bud look good in making that decision. I'd be curious to know what your take is on that.
And, I was thinking about that as well because like I said, your point guard is a priority, most important position, on your team. And to be honest, Teague was struggling, he really struggled. He had 7 of the 23 turnovers that the Hawks had in that particular game. And like I said, Schroeder, he was the one that was the catalyst to get him back in that game, played solid, made some really good decisions. Really simple basketball, got the ball in the hands of Horford, nice straight-up shots. I mean, good looks, play really aggressive, and the thing as a coach, one thing you'll try not to do is second-guess yourself. And he showed the confidence in Schroeder, and that's going to go a long way in that organization with that young man. And like I said, some nights you guys are not on. As we can see the different landscape of this 7-game series with a number of teams out there, but I think Schroeder, he made some good decisions, played tough, hard defense, but Teague was really struggling. But that just shows you the makeup of the Atlanta Hawks team. I mean, it just shows you what those guys are about. Any given night, one guy can step up and play and be the difference of the game.
And Coach, I've noticed this about the Hawks. Mike Scott and Perrin Teacher pretty much out the rotation. Mike Scott did not play. Perrin Teacher played 7 minutes, but Mike Muscala, the Moose, is getting the minutes at behind Al and Paul Millsap, and he's shooting those threes. And John and I made this talking about, seems like Al Horford is getting a little bit 3-point happy. It's not really his shot, but he's going out there more and more and more. And then, you have a guy like you said, Kent Bazemore. He really didn't play as much as you wanted him to. It's pretty much been Dennis Schroeder off the bench and Mike Muscala. Bud has pretty much gone 8 men now. You look like this move for Coach Bud going forward, pretty much playing $7.5 million, as I'm gonna call it, pretty much, to go for it against Cleveland or Chicago. We're going for it to beat Washington tomorrow night in DC.
You know, and you know, the interesting thing about that is, you know, I always allude to when I, you know, coach. Usually, you try to get to that 7 or 8 guy rotation throughout this year, and you get that 7, 8, and you can just stretch 8 and maybe 9 guys, you know, that rotation down. But any given night, like you said, Muscala, any given night, those guys got to be ready to step up and play. Because when one of those key guys can get in foul trouble, I always tell guys, you never know when your button's going to be pushed. So you have to be ready and locked in the game. So that's why I always tell my players, hey, be locked in, follow the flow of the game. See, but that's the makeup of the Hawks. They have skilled players, guys that are capable of picking, popping, shooting threes. Like I said, look at Horford. Horford has expanded his game. I've been following him ever since he came to Atlanta, out of Florida. How he's expanded his game, been able to step up, pick and pop, shoot that little mid-range jump shot. Now he's just made a big 3 in the last game. So I just think that's the makeup and the confidence that the coaches and the coaching staff have in these guys, and they're getting there, putting the work in the gym. So I think, you know, once you get the rotation down there, that's great in itself. But at the same time, guys got to have to be ready to step up and play whenever a major minute guy, you know, getting foul trouble, whatever the case may be.
Okay, now, Coach, we'll take it over to Cleveland at Chicago in the early game this evening, and they have the 1-game lead here, 3-2, closeout game tonight for the Cavs. I have a good feeling about the Cavs tonight. I feel like they're kind of starting to impose their will on the Bulls, and that performance by LeBron in the last game, with the help from Kyrie, you know, playing through that injury, LeBron playing through an injury, just kind of starting to lean on the Bulls a little bit, and I think that they're going to be a little bit too much for him tonight. Not having Gasol in there has really hurt. Excuse me, the Bulls, I think, more than not having Love has hurt the Cavs. If I can even believe that I'm saying that. I thought that would be such a devastating injury for the Cavs. But just curious to find out what you think about this Game 6 and moving forward with this series.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very, very intense game tonight. As you can see, all those games have been coming out from the last possession, but it takes LeBron having that type of game. I mean, to be honest, he's really carrying this team. To be honest, he's really carrying the team. And what I was most impressed with him to play that many minutes, you know, get 38 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, 0 turnovers. I was really impressed. And he's averaging 40 minutes now. You know, he leads them in scoring, he's rebounding, you know, assists. I mean, it's amazing what he's doing for this team, you know. But in order for him to win, he's going to need to produce like that. I hate to say it. He's going to have to be really, really aggressive and produce like that for him to get over the hump. Because Chicago's going to be ready. But I think this is a closeout game. You cannot make it a game in 7. So I think they're going to try to close it out tonight to really, really finish that game tonight. Really, really important. You know, and I was watching ESPN earlier. It's amazing how the Cavs are so successful when LeBron is creating dribble scoring opportunities. He's driving. He's not settling for that jump shot. He's not settling for those off-balance shots. He's putting pressure on that defense to guard him. And he's attacking, getting in the lane, posting up, using his strength. I mean, he's really, really playing a dynamic game for the Cavs. And like I said, Kyrie Irving, even though he's a little banged up, he's still bringing his way. So it'll be interesting to see the dynamic. But I'm pulling for the Cavs in this one to go ahead and close it out.
Now, Coach, the one thing that I did notice about LeBron and the amount of minutes that he's played through this up to this point in his career is exorbitant. I think some of the most ever in history. And in this series, this season, he's played a lot of minutes. But in these past 2 games, he has gotten a good amount of rest in the third quarters of these games, which, in my opinion, is better rest than you would get in the first half of a game. So if your superstar is able to stay on the bench in the third quarter and you're able to withstand a run or keep a lead with him on the bench, that makes a huge, huge difference in the fourth quarter and in a closeout game like the Cavs had tonight. Do you agree with that, sir?
I totally agree with that, and that's very, very important. You know, when the playoffs, you know, the coaches try to get their, you know, how they're going to get their rotation, their subs, and you made a really good point on that, because if LeBron can sit there and get major rest minutes, it really helps the team out, like I said, closing out and going in the fourth and being able to produce and get some separation. Because as you know, this game has been a game of runs. I mean, you saw where the Cavs were up double figures and they came back and made a one possession game. But I think that's important where those guys get tired. LeBron gets tired, you know, at certain moments of the game. But that's a really great point there. And like I said, I think it's really important that he's able to get some rest and decrease some minutes. Like I say, he's averaging over 40 minutes a game. That's a lot of minutes, you know, for him. You know, especially when you still got the series, 2 more series. Hopefully, you know, can finish it up in the, 2 more series.
Yes, indeed. And we're joined by our basketball analyst, Coach Travis Williams, on the Bossman Show, breaking down all these playoff series for you. And, Coach, we'll have one more series to talk about. Houston and the Clippers. In Game 5, I've been blown out by 25 or more in the last couple of games. Houston decided to show up and blew out the Clippers, on which probably, in my opinion, went to the foul trouble of DeAndre Jordan. And they didn't muck up the game this time. They actually played them out. DeAndre was out. Chris Paul looked out of sorts. They weren't making any shots. Now, going back to L.A., the Clippers' Staples Center is not really, I want to call it a big home court advantage for them. Nobody's scared to play there. Do you feel Houston, they played how they played in Game 5, letting Harden do what he does? I know they want to move the ball, but let him pretty much control the pace and tempo. And Dwight Howard inside out, and him playing defense and getting DeAndre Jordan in foul trouble. Can Houston get this back to Houston for a Game 7 and where they play all for the marbles, who will play either Golden State or Memphis in the West Conference Finals beginning on next Tuesday? So who you got in this matchup, Houston and the Clippers, and what is your coach's breakdown the eye of this matchup going forward in Game 6?
It's really going to be interesting to see. You know, I think the biggest key for Houston is consistency, and you talked about it, consistency. You know, with James Harden having a triple-double, who was on a flu-like symptoms, being able to have the ball in his hand, being able to be aggressive, being able to get points in the paint, attacking the rim, getting in the lane. You know, Dwight Howard, who stayed out of foul trouble, who didn't get caught up emotionally all in the game, who dominated the glass, and that's what Houston needs. When you had Dwight were able to dominate the glass, and I think what Mikhail did, he shook up the lineup. He started Josh Smith, shook up the lineup. You know, just get a different look, get a different vibe. And those guys played well off each other. And I think those guys were really in attack mode from the start. They were in attack mode, and they played with a sense of urgency. You know, hey, you lose, and that's it. You know, so I think they played with a more sense of urgency. And it gives them another game to go back to L.A. But I think the Clippers is going to protect home court. And that's what it's going to come down to, being able to protect home court. And those guys are going to be ready because they had a chance, and that has been the Clippers not had a chance to put games away and go into that first NBA finals. So I think the Clippers going to take care of business. I really do. I feel pretty confident, which we always call the bounce-back game, and Doc Rivers challenging those guys.
Now, Coach, I've personally had a tough time getting into this series. It's just a hard watch for me. It's on late. I'm an East Coaster. It's on late for me, and I'm an old man, so I fall asleep early. Second of all, it's tough to watch, you know. And one of the things that's tough to watch for me is a guy like, I'm sorry, JR, I just blanked on his name, Howard, and
okay.
You know, his talent is being, I guess, wasted. It seems like he's wasting his talent. He doesn't impose his will in the game. It seems to me like he's a player that he's just soft. He seems soft to me. And as a coach, I'd be interested to get your opinion on whether you see it through a coach's eyes as him being soft, or as you see him just having a different game than the rest of us think he should have because of his size.
I just think that's his makeup. When you look at we always, as coaches, we talk about guys' DNA. You know, it can be misconstrued as soft. But I just think it's a part of his DNA, his skill set. You know, he doesn't have that dog in him. You remember as Kobe Bryant always getting after him and all that stuff with the Lakers, the big issue with that. It's just that dog. Certain guys have dogs. Michael Jordan had that dog in him when he played. Kobe Bryant has that dog in him. And Dwight, was being such as talented as he is, he didn't have that dog in it. You know, like I say, everybody else say he's the laughy jokey. I just think he needs to change his approach on how he does things, especially in the heat of the battle at this moment. You know, as talented as he is, and I say talented, but being talented and skilled, you got to have a mentality, a mindset with it. And I think that's the issue with his approach to the game and his mindset to the game. You know, and like I said, it frustrates a lot of folks when they look at Dwight Howard and all that talent and skill set. But there'll be some games where he don't even show up, whether or not he gets foul troubles, just, stuff like that. But when he's rebounding and dominating the glass and getting 20 boards, getting put back, getting dumped, blocking shots, that's the Dwight Howard that everybody's like, okay, he shows us something. But when he takes 10 steps back, and as you put it, being a little soft, that's the problem a lot of folks have with him. But I think, that's been the issue. He's been inconsistent. And then he's been plagued by a lot of numerous injuries. So that's his makeup. So I think it's in his DNA.
And, Coach, we had another one of your coaching brothers take a L and get fired at Monty Williams. This is a firing who I think was unjustified. He made the playoffs in the Western Conference, mind you, beat the Spurs to get to the playoffs, and he still got fired, which is more like, to me, a Dale Demps power play who wants more power in New Orleans and want to force out Monty Williams and save his own behind because they only had one year left on their deals. And so, as a coach, I know you've been in the business a while. Would you feel when a GM or administrator feel heat on them? Does the heat trickle down to you too? And when they'll just fire you rather than go through the fire and say, hey, let me give guys a chance, they'll rather easy to fire the coach than take the heat themselves. I think Dale Demps fired Monty Williams to save himself, give himself an extension going forward. And they say that Tom Thibodeau now is the favorite to land there, even though he already has a job in Chicago, which he'll be gone from Chicago. So what's your foot on this whole dynamic with Monty Williams, Dale Demps, and Thibodeau now in the mix there in New Orleans, now the coach Anthony Davis, the Brown?
Well, first of all, Monty Williams, he's a class act, I mean, the guy did a terrific job of what he had. They were young, injury-riddled team. You have to applaud him for that. I mean, he's one of the best up-and-coming coaches. To do what he did with that organization, you mentioned, to win and beat the Spurs to get in the playoffs says a lot about how those guys responded to him. And for this to happen, man, it's a crazy business. That's what, it's really a crazy business, and understanding that he has a strong, relationship with Anthony Davis. Let's see how all this stuff plays up. But the question is the ownership stable? How's the front office? You hear about the owner, Benson changing ownership to his wife, taking his kids. So there's a lot of issues that you have to look at from that ownership that's trickling down to that management side. So that's the interesting part about it. See where it is. And then, like I say, he's been there 5 years. He was there 5 years. And, he wasn't, Dale wasn't his guy. I mean, Dale didn't hire him. So, some guys want to get their own guy in. So that's the business part of it. So it'll be interesting to see those dynamics of that. But I just think, was it justifiable? No, but you got to look at the dynamics. You can go back to George Carl. You can go back to Brooks. You can go back to Monty. I mean, the dynamics of how that business plays in the NBA, coaching, the career, the coaching aspects of it, and our careers, man, you only get as successful as your last year. He had a successful year, but I'm just telling you, it's different dynamics what folks are looking for. So I felt for him, I've been there, and it's a tough business, but I'm quite sure he's respected around the league. He'll bounce back, and he can hold his head up high, because one thing, those guys still hasn't told him why they let him go. You know what I'm saying? So that's another question mark. So he can hold his head up high, know he did the best job he was able to do with those guys, and then, just keep fighting the fight, man. And I'm speaking from on both a personal and a professional level as a coach. And I understand I've been there, not on the NBA level, but I've been on the collegiate level, understanding the dynamics of it. If someone don't feel like you're doing a certain thing, you say, hey, we need to move in a different direction, without any explanation. So, but I thought he did an outstanding job. I thought they had a great young nucleus of guys. And I think the future is bright for that organization with the right coach and the right, mix, especially if they can re-sign the franchise player dates.
Now, Coach, the player-coach dynamic in the NBA is different than it is in any other major pro sport. And I've always been a little bit leery of the amount of power that the players have in the NBA, and some of the things that they do, and some of the scenarios that play out there are very off-putting to me in the player-coach relationship. Okay, what specifically in this case, we'll talk about Bron and David Blatt. Okay, what do you see in that dynamic between those two? What do you see there as a coach? Does it irritate you like it irritates me?
Well, the NBA is a players' league. Everybody knows that it's a player league. The player dictates what's going on. It's really a player league. And you got to think about it. LeBron has been, for the past 4 years, NBA Finals, won the 2 NBA, championships. So in this particular situation, I think they have a really good relationship. They're growing and learning each other. David Blatt has been international, really hasn't been in this heat of the NBA. It's a different dynamic. There's no way that you can't put a price on it. It's a different dynamic to you to that heat. And LeBron is the type of player to listen. Remember, I'm going to give you an example. A few years ago, he wouldn't want that shot. He wouldn't take that shot. He would pass it. But now he's at a point now where he's carrying that Cavaliers team where he wants that shot. I don't think it was a shot of disrespect or different dynamics him and Black. I think they have a great relationship. I don't think he blew off the play. I think it was more of like, hey, I see something different. I want the ball in my hand. I take the responsibility. If I don't make the shot, I can deal with the result. And see, that's the type of player you want on your team. And as a coach, as coaches, we make mistakes, and as players, we make mistakes. But in that particular situation, I think they have an open line of communication where they're talking about, because you got to think about it. David Blatt was throwing in that heat in the Cavs, and to get a player of LeBron's caliber and some of the things that he's accomplished, and he still accomplished, you get a chance to coach one of the greatest players ever to put on a uniform. So I think it's a really good player-coach dynamic. I don't think it's bad. I think it's the communication. Like LeBron said, they're getting better. They're understanding each other better. I think it's part of those guys coexisting with each other. So I just think I think it's going to be great for the franchise.
Coach, I love having you on for this reason. Getting being able to run things up the flagpole to a man who's coached, had success, and knows what he's talking about is great for not only me and Boss, but also for the listeners. You get that perspective of somebody who's gone through it. I can sit here and I can throw things against the wall all day and see what sticks. I've never coached a basketball team. You know what I'm saying? I've never won anything as a coach of a basketball team. So it's great to have somebody who has some weight to their opinions and what they're sharing with us. And I really just want to share my sincere appreciation with you for sharing your time with us.
I appreciate you guys, and that's important. That's why we're doing this, give our viewers, our listeners, a better understanding what really goes on. You can read the blogs and do all this other stuff, but what we try to do is bring the real hardcore and break everything down and put it in perspective for the listeners, especially across all sports and genres. So I'm excited that you guys, that we're able to do this every week, and I'm glad to be a part of this special team.
And you know what, John? I wish Coach had a job, but I'm glad he's here with us. You know what I'm saying? I mean that, Coach. I'm glad. I wish you had a gig, but I'm glad you're here with John and I, because I said I'm glad. I said I'm glad you came to coach in my alma mater. I got to meet you and get to know you and have you on our team now. So I told the listeners last week, when I did our open segment, that Coach Williams is a great guy, great coach. This is what he says. He should. I listened to him and said, "Why is it he should have a job? He's great." I said, "We all know that. We all agree here with that." So, Coach, me and John want to tell you on the air. Like I said last week when you went on there, we're glad to have you. I know it's a blessing that we have you. Blessing you came to Tennessee State, and I wish it worked out better for you there. But I'm glad that we came across these paths to be able to do this and to give the listeners this kind of perspective. Because without that, we don't know if you're here today with us. So we want to take it today and tell you that on the air personally, that everybody can hear that how we appreciate you, what you've given to the show the last few weeks. So hope to keep it going with you long as we can.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm excited about continuing to move forward with what we're doing.
Yes, indeed. Folks, coming up after the break, we got more basketball and boss report coming up for you. Coach, do it again next week. We'll see how everything's going. We'll do it again, John. So, people, you heard the coach, you heard John, you heard me. Basketball for you on the Bossman Show. 3 of a kind. We out.
And if you don't know, now you know.